What's going on, bros and hoes? I'm Kevin Hoops, and this is the Kevin Hoops Show, and we're about to be getting into some UFC 281 predictions. All I ask is like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about the video, as well as tell me your predictions in the comments below. Tell me right now, and then we'll compare afterwards, and we'll compare notes, all right? Without further ado, though, let's get into this video. You know, one of my favorite things about this fight is that these two guys, Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler, have a lot of respect for each other. Not only do they show it in the press conference talking about the hot sauce and whatnot, but I think that they genuinely just want to have an entertaining fight, and they both know that they're going to throw down come Saturday night. Now I'm just going to come out and say it. I 100% think that Michael Chandler is going to win this fight. Whether you think so or not, I think Michael Chandler is going to take it. Don't get me wrong now. Dustin Poirier is one of the most decorated fighters we have. If there was a freaking gold medalist with all gold medals like Michael Phelps, Dustin Poirier would be that guy. But what I'm saying, what I'm seeing is in this fight, Michael Chandler seems super dialed in. He has one goal right now, and that goal is the belt. I think Dustin Poirier is maybe looking for some bigger fights. He's maybe looking towards the end of his career. He's fought for the title not only once, but twice. And, you know, I think that he might just be looking for some bigger fights where he's really making money. He has a lot of things outside of the UFC that he's, is busy with when it comes to his charities, when it comes to his hot sauce. He's a businessman now. What can he say? He even talked about it in one of the press conferences leading up to this weekend that, he was getting a little frustrated not having a fight for so long. And then he ended up kind of just forgetting about it because he got so busy with the current stuff that he was already doing. And that actually, I want to bring up, he hasn't fought in a whole entire year. His last fight was back in December of 2021. So it's been basically 11 months since he's last fought. And I think that that's another factor that we're going to have to take in, and another reason why I'm picking Michael Chandler over Dustin. I want to add on to actually a thing that I mentioned earlier as well, is Michael Chandler definitely has the knockout power, and I think if you were to say who could punch harder, I think that person is Michael Chandler. But Dustin Poirier also he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He has that in his tool belt. And yes, Michael Chandler is a D1 All-American wrestler, but when it comes to jiu-jitsu versus wrestling, I think jiu-jitsu is going to take it. But I don't think this fight is going to go to the ground. It's a 3-round fight, and both of these guys in 3-round fights, you see them more just strike a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of striking, and Michael Chandler probably has good takedown defense. He was mentioning against Islam, if he were to fight Islam, that he would be able to defend against any attacks and any offense that Islam would bring to him when it comes to takedowns. Do I think that's true? Absolutely not. But against someone like Dustin Poirier, who knows? I think that that's a very interesting fact. A big thing that I know a lot of people could bring up when it comes to looking at things on paper is Dustin Poirier has beat Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler has not. I think that is a good thing to look at, and if Dustin Poirier is going to win, that would probably be, a big factor if I was looking on betting, and if you're a fan of Dustin Poirier and want some reassurance. But fights aren't always down to, this fighter's beat this person, therefore if that person lost against that other fighter, then this person's better. If fighting were like that, then people would be extremely wealthy off betting on fights. But the world just doesn't work like that. So I think that, he might have caught Justin Gaethje off on an off night. Who knows what the whole situation was on why Dustin won. And I'm not saying he didn't win deservingly. But who knows why Michael Chandler lost. It could have been his off night. Or, he could have been dealing with something in training camp. And also, we need to bring in the fact that Michael Chandler has only fought 4 fights. Dustin is going to be his 5th fight. And he was talking about he's now kind of settled in. He's settled down. He was kind of hyped up each fight leading up to it when he first got into the UFC because no one was really giving him his credit when he was fighting in Bellator, when he wasn't fighting in UFC. People just weren't giving him the credit that he was an actual good top-tier fighter. And now I think he's kind of proved that, and he's going to start to calm down. We're going to see maybe not super energized and sporadic and explosive Michael Chandler. We might see a more strategic and more technical Michael Chandler when it comes to his striking and his fighting in the cage. To add on to that as well, if you really want to compare stats, Dustin's fought Khabib, Anthony Pettis, Conor McGregor, Max Holloway. The list goes on and on and on of super big names that Dustin Poirier has fought. And, Michael Chandler's only fought a few people: Dan Hooker, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. He's only had one other fight than that I can't think of right now, Tony Ferguson. And, those are some decent, pretty big names for UFC for only having 4 fights. He didn't really have any let me get used to being in the UFC type of fights. He was thrown right to the dogs, and he's been perfectly capable of fighting for himself when it comes to that. So I don't think this is a fight where you have to compare on paper. And if you look at their records, Dustin Poirier's 28-7, Michael Chandler's 23-7. So they're both experienced fighters. It just really comes down to the caliber of fighters that they were fighting. Because obviously Bellator and other organizations outside of the UFC, when it comes to the top of the top tier, they'll have elite fighters, but the question is, do they have as many as the UFC? Like I said, all the names I just listed off, it goes on and on of big names, big elite fighters that have been at the top of their game in the UFC that have been killers. And I think that just isn't a thing you have to put into factor into this fight. I think a big thing that's going to come into factor is that it's 3 rounds. Michael Chandler has shown his knockout power, especially compared to Dustin. And Michael Chandler's really settling into the UFC. And I think we're going to see that in this fight of a more technical and smart Michael Chandler. In no means am I saying Dustin Poirier is going to be getting, world starred on Saturday night, and it might even go to the decision and Michael Chandler might win. And that's a whole other thing to think about, which I think it's less likely, because I think it's going to be very action-packed, and it's going to be until someone makes a mistake, and that's when the other person is going to capitalize, and the fight's just going to end from there, because these guys are going to be tired. And they're both used to 5-round fights, but I think it's going to be a really interesting fight, and that's why I'm here talking about it. But I got Michael Chandler in this one, and I think he's going to come out with the W because he's so dialed in on coming to the belt. But let me know in the comments who you guys think is going to win. I've got Michael Chandler. We got Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. That prediction is going to be coming out tomorrow, so check the channel for that. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know who you guys think is going to win, and I will see you guys tomorrow, and have a great motherfucking day.